I've only I've only seen some scenes of the movie Network from 1976, but Rabbi has seen it at least once in his lifetime, and I know there's a lot of value.
Maybe more.
Maybe even more. I'm sure he has a whole lot of value about explaining this movie in some detail. So, what I'm gonna want to know for you to tell the audience and myself, because it's been a while since I've seen parts of this, is who are the main characters?
Okay.
In a sec, you talk about the actors in a sec.
All
so
right.
who are the main characters? But also the second part of all of this, and what also you really get into is what will you consider the messages and themes of this movie as well.
Okay.
So let's just start with the actors and characters.
Okay. Well, first of all, the director is,
Oh, sure, the director first, yeah.
Class A director Sidney Lumet. And the writer of the screenplay is Patty Chayefsky. So, I mean, we're talking about real.
Did you just mention the writer is?
Yeah.
Oh, tell us a little bit more about the writer.
Oh, Patty Chayefsky, very famous writer, and he's an award-winning author, and his what's the word I'm looking? His portfolio is quite impressive.
How many decades was this writer involved with stuff?
Oh my gosh,
Like
he's been writing since at least the early '60s.
Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, this is a really in terms of the cast, it's like a whole list of heavy hitters, or people who later became.
Either were already heavy hitters, or
yes.
but also later became.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, Faye Dunaway, William Holden.
No,
Peter Finch.
Wait, no. Before you get to the actors, we can hopefully explain their characters as well. You mentioned the director also, if it's the writer director. The director,
Sidney Lumet.
What else had that director made?
Oh my gosh! Now you're taxing my memory. I didn't write that down.
Tax.
I mean, I'm just trying to think off the top.
But the director had a lot of.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
okay.
really powerful drama, mostly drama.
Mostly dramas. Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some of the actors. What characters do they play in this, and how does it?
Okay, so the main, if I can, the antagonist, if there is Faye Dunaway. She's the one that sort of moves sometimes behind the scenes and is very deep, very complicated character. She plays Diana Christensen, who's like the network producer, and she really takes advantage of the Peter Finch character, Howard Beale. Peter Finch, Howard Beale, finds out that he's sort of washed up. They're going to get rid of him, and he goes on an absolute rant on this network news show, where he just, says, "I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore." Hang on, just let me finish my thought. And so, all of a sudden, the ratings go up, and they find a way to actually to use him and take advantage of where he's at. Okay, go ahead now.
Before we get into everything that he does with his character, because I know he's very important. When you mentioned that woman first,
yeah.
Is she meant to be an antagonist, or
yeah,
what?
she's but not openly.
Not openly.
Yeah,
no.
she's sort of in the sort of. I mean, we see it as the audience, but it's done. She does it in such a way that she takes advantage of the Howard Beale character.
Is she less than or the same level as nurse from the
I think even more.
Even more.
Oh yeah. She's more influential in the movie. She's the one that convinces the network director, the owner.
Oh, because let's go back to him, the main character now.
Yeah.
So he's on those, and then for some reason one day he decides to be angry and say certain things.
Well, no, it's not. He ends up that way because he finds out they're trying to get rid of him.
Oh, because they're trying to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But then once he started doing what he's doing, they wanted to keep him.
Right.
And then how does that flow with the rest of that?
Right. So then, because he wants to actually commit suicide on air.
Okay.
And so instead of doing that, he changes and goes on this rant, as I mentioned before.
The people behind YouTube, I know how you guys are. Don't demonetize us if this channel ever gets monetized for that S word. We know you guys don't like that S word, but yeah.
Well, it's part of the
no,
movie.
I know. I'm just saying.
It's
YouTube,
part of the description
no,
of the
no,
movie.
No. I'm saying I like my guests and co-hosts. I like my co-hosts and guests to talk as freely as they want in any way,
Right.
shape, or form. I'm just saying those are one of the type of buzzwords that YouTube doesn't like.
Right.
It's nothing against you. So don't ever let that word get messed up from this.
Right.
Are there any minor characters, or are we mainly talking about main?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of minor characters that fit in to the into the plot. Excuse me, and some actors that are how should I put it? They're very young at the time, up and coming actors like Lane Smith, for instance, Robert Duvall, Ned Beatty.
Duvall's in a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, just remember, this movie is almost 50 years old. I mean, think about that. So, at the time, these actors were in their 20s and maybe early 30s, so they're just up and coming in terms of their film history.
While you continue to tell the audience...
I mean, Robert Duvall was in Godfather in 72,
yeah.
right? But here,
right.
he comes in.
Right.
Again, John Carpenter, who became a director.
Oh, you mean the director? Oh, director.
Yeah,
okay.
he's actually in the movie.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
So while you continue to tell the audience about the actors and the characters and how the actors portray the characters, we also want to go over what you think of as the main messages and themes of the messages and themes of the movie.
Yeah, all right. So, yes, there's another actress, Conchata Ferrell. You may not know her. She was in the movie Mr. Deeds with Adam Sandler.
Oh, okay.
All right, she plays like the owner or she works in the pizza shop, right? And she's hysterical, right? And I didn't think of her when I went back to see this movie. I go, oh my God, that's her.
So that's her. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know that actress exactly.
Yeah.
When you said that was her with the humor and stuff, though,
Right.
would this movie considered when it said on the genre?
This is a drama.
Drama. It said a drama, but did it say dark comedy?
Yeah, it's a dark comedy.
Dark comedy drama. Yeah.
So again, there's a few actors and actresses that you may recognize now that at that time they really weren't that famous. And I always love that when I look at an older movie.
Right.
And I see, oh my God, look who's in
that,
and then look who they are now.
Exactly.
It's really. And the this movie actually has a narrator, and the narrator is a pretty heavy-duty actor from the 40s and 50s, Lee Richardson.
I don't know, but he he narrated all this?
Oh yeah, he narrated.
What kind of narration was meant for the movie?
It moved the plot.
It moved around?
Yeah.
So the main actor,
Excuse me.
it's okay. The main actor guy who was they were gonna let him go and fire him. Once he started doing what he did, and then they liked it. From that point onward, how did that affect his mental health moving forward?
Oh, you could see him decline over the whole course of the movie.
Oh, throughout the whole course?
Oh, yeah.
So even though they let him on when he still did that, it kept it worse in a way?
Right.
Okay, okay. So it's about broadcasting.
Right.
What was this movie trying to say about broadcasting in 1976?
Well, it already started to show the cynicism of broadcast news. And something that we see that actually came about today with the alternative cable network news, and this whole idea that news is no longer, really news.
It's not really news.
You go to cable networks and they're going to pander to a certain audience. So if you go to Fox News, you'll get whatever they're trying to sell in terms of their idea. If you go to CNN or MSNBC, they're going to sell their perspective.
Right.
And it's more opinion than it is actual factual, this is the hard news.
Right.
They're offering opinion, and people, and so this movie was actually prophetic in a way that UBS, that was the network, was like the fourth rated network, and they were trying to improve their ratings. And so what they did was they started to appeal to a certain audience to get their ratings
Right.
up.
CNN came out in the early 1980s.
Right.
This movie's 76. So
Right.
whatever it was like trying to say with all that, which is like a few years earlier.
Right. I'm sorry, what was that again? Which?
CNN came out in the early
Oh
80s.
yeah, because
actually.
so they were
Or,
they were sort of prophetic
Right,
in what in Patty Chayefsky kind of saw this coming.
Right.
And
So-
so
So the movie itself, by the time it gets to the end,
yeah.
is this ending neutral, happy, sad? Like what kind of ending does it have?
Well,
And guys, this is like almost a 50-year-old movie, so ready for possible spoilers.
yeah, it's so it's trying to trying to describe in terms of I mean you can describe the action as to how it ends, but it really is a more open-ended ending.
So like open-ended meaning like more like what was the word for that open ending? Another word for that? Ambiguous?
Ambiguous ending, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So for anybody that doesn't mind spoilers, what kind of open ending does it kind of give at this point?
Okay,
Just talk about the end real quick.
so the ending as the beginning leaves the television the studio UBS with an even more serious problem than they started
Oh,
with.
okay.
Okay,
Gotcha.
so in other words, the beginning, it starts with their poor ratings, and they're
Right.
trying to solve that, and this, one character, as I said, goes on a rant, and they sort of exploit him, but at the end, it's like they're without him now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and now they have to figure out how to go on from there.
Okay.
So and they're not sure how. And
Oh,
Faye Dunaway is
yeah.
not the producer. I made a mistake. She's actually the program director.
Program director.
She's a neophyte, up and coming program director.
Yeah, what happens with her?
Well, she gets into a romance with
One of the
executives.
stars.
So what they call a May-December romance.
May, December now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, that creates its own problems as well. It's a really, like I said, as you mentioned, it's a dark comedy. It's a dramedy, I would call it.
Dramedy.
And so, I think, for many of us who grew up watching Faye Dunaway's performances, this was a really different turn for her. I know that the main characters, the Peter Finch and William Holden, and those are but her character, I think, is the most complicated character and the one that really develops the most and sort of has her head turned.
So would you say then that this role she did here is much different than the other
Some of the other roles that
she's
she's had,
played in?
yeah.
Okay.
She was such a great actress. I mean, just really so many. She could do so much, so different. I mean, she played, what was it, Bonnie and Clyde? She was in that. It's like. She always had great leading men, though, too.
Oh,
to work
that
with.
helps. That helps.
Yeah, so but that doesn't take anything. I'm not trying to take anything away
Right.
from Faye Dunaway's performance
Right.
here, but really just a different kind of role for her.
Okay.
And she does it so well. Very subtle. The looks, the nuance in how she delivers her dialogue, I thought was really pretty amazing.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about the actors and actresses or the characters before we move on?
No.
Okay, that's mainly about the actors and actresses and characters, right?
And basic plot.
And basic plot.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you tell the audience what you think the major messages and themes are of this movie?
Well, I think that we, as I mentioned earlier, it was prophetic in terms of how cable news especially developed. And I think we have to be very careful about how we take in our news, and understanding what news really is. I don't know how many people in your audience even remember or know that originally when the FCC gave licenses to the television networks, they had to reserve 1 hour each day. It was by law. They had to reserve 1 hour each day for. Whoops.
I'm sorry. I'll clean that up at the end.
Okay.
Oh shoot. Okay. Good. It's still recording.
Okay. For commercial-free news, public service. So originally, when you would watch the news, there was absolutely no commercials during news hour. And so the television stations weren't beholden to any particular audience because they didn't have to worry about income-driven news. And now, in today's world, and this is what this is what this movie network sort of predicted, and the message was, now that we have commercial-driven news, that we need an audience, right, to...
Wait, at the time, was there commercials or no?
No, well, just before this. This commercial started, I want to say, in the early 70s.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. But then, as news became commercialized, you were pandering or trying to appeal to a certain audience, and so therefore your news becomes biased. And that's why I say all network news right now, all cable news has a bias of some sort, either to the right, to the left, wherever they are. They have a bias. So if you really want to get like factual news, you should go to like a radio station like KYW, right? That doesn't rely, or even NPR, although I don't agree with sometimes, they also have a bias as well. But it's less so than other news networks. So I guess that's the message here. It was sort of a predictor of what was going to happen, and we have to be careful, in our choice of what news is. And again, it was also partially a comedy.
Right.
It was meant to have some laughs in it.
In a dark
Yeah, in a dark way. Yeah. But
now, when they wanted to let him go, and he found out, and then they kept him on when he was doing his thing.
Right. Well, they used him.
Right. That's what I mean with the using.
It,
right. With the using it, exploiting part. I mean, is what I want to talk about now. Is that I think the majority of employment for people now, whoever's working these days,
right,
that the company and the bosses really don't care about their employer for the most part. So, and that's why it's so hard.
That's an overgeneralization.
Oh, okay.
There are two theories of management. There's X theory and Y theory.
Okay.
So X theory of management is just what you described,
okay,
where the employers will use and exploit their employees for as long as they can get them, and when they're done, and when they're burned out, so they go. That's it. And then theory Y is really the idea of partnership, of taking care of employees, and there are companies that
some do. The very few do that way. I just feel like for the most part they just don't care about, and that's why some of them are working 2 or 3 different jobs.
Right.
But they're stressed out because they're overworked and little pay from the bosses type thing. It's a whole other thing. But I'm just connecting that to the boss. Aspect of the network.
So this is again, it was also that idea. That the boss exploits the worker.
So you're saying with the message part of this that it had to do with they eventually added on commercials, which made it more about the commercials made it more about what's like just the revenue, the money, or and
it was really
and the biases of different biases of things.
Right.
Okay. How if you had to grade or rate network, how would you grade this?
B plus.
A B plus?
Yeah,
okay.
A solid B plus. I was actually leaning toward an A minus, but then the movies that I would grade an A or an A plus would be sort of minimized by that.
So would you say about a B or a B plus?
If we're doing out of 5 stars, 4 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5.
Another 4.5.
4.5 out of 5 stars.
So with a 4.5 out of 5, then that letter would be more like a B plus then.
Yeah. So indeed, there's really great performances, and again, there's so many actors that we now think of as old actors, that they were young and really just coming into their own. So I really I enjoy the movie, but you know, again, it's a matter of taste in this movie. And the thing is, I think the movie holds up well, and we can look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, this is like a history lesson,"
Right, exactly.
because we see what happened after it, and boy, oh boy, did they hit the nail right on the head here.
Okay, great. So I'm going to be doing some closing remarks in a sec.
Okay.
Unless there's anything else you want to say from the
No,
notes.
yeah, that's it.
So I want
got
to
4 minutes.
give the audience your final thoughts and opinions on that work.
So I sort of did in saying there are solid performances all the way around in this movie.
By both major and minor characters.
Major and minor characters. Everybody contributes. There's, I think, in some places, and this is why I guess I gave it the B+, it gets a little slow in a couple places in the movie, but generally the action...
Well, what's the runtime? When you say that some scenes are slow, what's the approximate runtime?
I can't tell you that. I don't know.
But some scenes are slow, though.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm just saying some scenes. But I thought the editing was done well. I think, again, the acting, the storyline is a terrific storyline. And as a matter of fact, the storyline has been adapted and used by other writers and producers to put on, you know, for different shows, as we see even today on some of the cable series that have come out.
I hope you guys like Rabbi's thoughts on this movie. Sounds like he gave it an overall positive recommendation.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And we do have a Jewish holiday coming up in a few weeks that might stop the flow of these, but we're gonna get these movies out for you. Discussions in the time when the timing's right. So in the next
week.
In the next week. Oh, is it? Are you
next week we're good.
With next week we'll be doing a lot of people's like favorites, and I know you're gonna have a whole lot to say about it.
Oh yeah.
Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles, and if after he's done in that first video, if he still has way more thoughts to say about it, it might need a part 2 or a part 3.
No,
we'll see, because you don't know how much you have to say.
Yeah,
it might need past the part 1. So it depends about how much you can get out in the first one. But,
absolutely.
yeah, so Blazing Saddles coming up next week, but we should say the Hebrew term because things happen. B'li neder.
Well, hopefully, God willing.
God willing. B'li neder, just for the non-Jewish viewers, B'li neder means without a vowel.
Right.
But without a vowel.
We say something.
Right.
We say something, and our word is our bond, but we use the term to say that, you know, we don't know what might happen.
Might happen.
So the plan is next week, and I hope you all enjoy.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for Rabbi for your comments on this movie. Support your local movie theater throughout the decade of the 2030s at the big silver screen to see an experience like no other with a bunch of strangers. It's so terrific, so amazing. Why? Because streaming movies online at home is just not the same thing at all.
For sure.
For sure. Everybody dance and have a good time. This is friend and co-host Rabbi and Millennial Man Motions Entertainment, LLC, signing out till Blazing Saddles.